Hello, this is Sarah, and this is my nerdy girlfriend. Lately, I've been reading a lot again, and I used to do a lot of book reviews, so I thought I could do that again, just as a video this time. So the first one I'm gonna introduce you to, it's called Ich liebe dich und dich, which is a German title. There is no English translation. It is called I love you and you. And as you might be able to tell from the title, it is about a poly relationship. Amazing! There's literature about that, which I thought was super cool, and so I really wanted to read it. The plot of the book. It's about a woman called Melanie who has been in a relationship with her boyfriend Jonas for quite some time. And then she meets another guy called Thomas. And she kind of falls in love with him as well. The catch about it is that Jonas already has been fantasizing about having a threesome with another guy for a while. Which is actually interesting because I did not think that would be the approach that this book was gonna take. I kind of like that the author made bisexuality part of the thing, and it's not just circled around the woman, you know. It is really a relationship of three people, and that comes out pretty well. Of course, it doesn't just start out like they all meet and then they immediately say, well, why not do a threesome relationship? So the arc is done quite well, where they struggle with themselves and the guy-on-guy aspect. Both of them think the other one would find it really gross if they touched during sex, which is both ridiculous and probably realistic. So you can't say anything against that either, I guess. But the thing is, it is all a little cliched. Like the way the characters are written, the way they behave, even how the story turns out, you know. It is also a little soapy and very German. Tom is actually a soap writer, and Jonas has this difficult childhood thing going on with an apathic father, and he used to be chubby, and he used to be bullied. It all turned out a little flat. The thing is, the writing is not very good. It is very porny, which, yay! But the porn is not very well written. It is very the fanfiction you wrote at 14, so the wording is not very good. So I like the approach to the plot, but I don't know. The writing wasn't the best. I'm a little so-so about this book. You don't have to be sad that there is no translation, but I am still happy that there is actually a book about a poly relationship. After that, I read Memoirs of an Imaginary Friend by Matthew Green. This I have been wanting to read for a while, because it's one of those books with a plot that sounds just a little unusual and very interesting. It is written from the perspective of an imaginary friend, Budo, and he has existed for 5 years already. Quite a long time for an imaginary friend to exist. The child who made him up is Max, an autistic child. I actually thought the whole book would be more metaphorical and that it would mostly be a description of an autistic child, but not from the view of the people, more like from the perspective of someone who is closer to him or who is him in a way. But it is a little more supernatural than that. It is an actual imaginary friend who has his own way of thinking and who does things and who interacts with other imaginary friends. Nobody can see them, of course, but the child that imagined the friend. And the imaginary friends can see each other. And if the child stops believing in them, they slowly start to fade. Budo, the imaginary friend, spends most of the book being afraid of that Max is gonna stop believing in him, so he's gonna stop existing. And I kind of like that this novel deals a lot with that, with existential fear, you know. Budo thinks a lot about how if he dies, he's not gonna be remembered, or that nothing is gonna matter to him once he's disappeared because he won't remember anything. And he knows he is supposed to be a friend to Max, but he also is very afraid for himself that he is gonna die if he does something wrong, you know? Because if he makes it too clear that he's just imaginary. And I think that is kind of what this book wants to do. I'm not sure about it, but I think that is mostly that it's dealing with existential crises. It kind of has this message within it, but not quite the one I thought it would be. So it is a very interesting book, and I liked it a lot. The style it's written in is pretty simple. It's written kind of childlike because Budo is, he's thought up by a child, and so he's a little childlike himself. And it's sometimes very cute, and sometimes very simple. And also, the book takes more suspenseful turns than you would imagine from a book about an imaginary friend of a little boy. But I'm not gonna tell you anything about that because that would be a spoiler. And I think I would recommend this, so maybe you should read it. Next one is Boy Meets Boy by David Levithan. I've actually read some books by David Levithan before. Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, Will Grayson, Dash and Lily's book of theirs, and Every Day. Every Day was my favorite, but I'm gonna talk about Boy Meets Boy right now. It's kind of like I imagined. It is just a cute little love story about a gay teenager. But what is kind of special about this book as well is that it's set in a town where queerness has become kind of normal. Paul, the main character, has some gay friends, and at his school there's a lot of gay people, openly gay people, which is the thing. And one of his best friends is Infinite Darlene, who is a transsexual quarterback, and she's also the homecoming queen, which is kind of amazing and a cool thing. When I read about it on Amazon beforehand, they kind of made it sound like it was a utopic setting where being gay was something nobody was shamed for and everyone was happily out and everything. That was not the case, because Paul's best friend, Tony, has this very strict family, very religious family, who do not let Tony hang out with Paul anymore after they find out that Tony's gay. And he does have it kind of difficult, and there's also this side to the story that not everyone has it as easy as Paul coincidentally does in this book. But that's what I kind of liked, that it was a mix of how it could be, because that was the general gist of that town, that nobody had to be afraid at school about being themselves. And it is not that far from reality that I know here. Like, that could actually be a setting in a couple of years. At least in Europe, I don't know. Without forgetting that there's also people who don't have it as easy, and that there is still this side to being different. The story itself is pretty straightforward, actually. Straightforward. I'm sorry. It's a teen romance. It's a normal teen romance. It's nothing like overly special. It has a fallout. It has a getting back together scene stuff. Did I spoil you? I don't know. I don't think that counts as a spoiler. It's very cute, and yeah. And actually, this is the 10th anniversary edition, which has a special story about Infinite Darlene, which has her going on a date. It's just a cute and happy story. And it shows that queer literature doesn't always have to be only about the struggles of it. It can also be just about being happy. And that I really, really liked. This is the last one that I read. It is originally Finnish. In German it's called Die Hure, which translates to the whore. And the Finnish title is Horasatu. Did I say that right? Well, as you can probably tell from the title, it is not a happy and light book. It is basically about two women who decide for different reasons to become prostitutes. So on the one hand, it has Mila, who is a student at first and then decides to quit studying and become a prostitute because she doesn't have enough money. And the other one is Kala, Mila's neighbor, who is a waitress. I can't describe the plot because it is kind of in bits and pieces. It is very surreal, and it has elements of Greek mythology in it. Like Aphrodite is one of the main characters, and her interaction with the other gods and goddesses. And it has them going to Hades and everything, and it said that it was gonna be surreal in all the reviews that I saw beforehand, and so that's what I expected. It is very surreal. It is fucking surreal. I should have been able to tell from the plot and from everything, but this is actually kind of a harsh book. At parts it was really, really violent and graphic in some ways, and which I was pretty surprised about because none of the reviews said so. What is probably most shocking about it is that it shows violence against women and the many ways it happens, so partly graphic ways. The back of the book says it is partly pornography, which I would not agree with, because the sex scenes described in the book mostly are not meant to be porn. They are meant to show the way women are oppressed. I would not recommend this to anyone who has problems with descriptions or mentions of any kind of sexual violence or violence at all. What I've been hesitating to call it is a dystopia because all the things that are included in this book are not made up. I mean, except for the mythology parts, and some things are described really crass, but I don't think in a way that hasn't happened. So that is what I found so unsettling about this book. And that's why it was partly really hard to read. It's partly trying to have women get revenge for the things that have been done to them. Then it turns around again. It is a very confusing book. It is not that it's written in a complicated way, but it's kind of a long nightmare. That sounds like it was a shitty book. No, it's not a shitty book, but it's very horror-y. For me, in order to be a truly strong feminist book, it is missing a couple of elements. Like, it does have women being mean to each other and calling each other sluts a lot as well, which is not something I like to see in a feminist book. I think what this book is good for is maybe raising awareness about certain things. You get a lot of things that happen that make you think, well, something is really, really wrong. Which might be for some people what they need to see that something is wrong. So, yeah. I don't know. it is kind of difficult. It is a really weird book. It is kind of a strong book in both the ways that it comes on strong and that it has a strong meaning behind it. So if you have the stomach for it, I would kind of recommend it. And it is definitely food for thought. But it is not a nice bedtime story. That's it. That's the last 4 books I read. And I don't know, if this turned out well, I might review more books on video here. And I hope you enjoyed. And I hope you might read some of these, maybe, at some point. Well, and there's Matt.
Hi.
Yeah. So we're both saying bye now.
Bye bye.